usually when that happens, I already have the story, but I'll be working it out, and I'll sort of hit a roadblock where I'm not sure where to go with it, and then I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll think, oh, I've got it. I know how to fix this. And that's when I will hop out of bed and go to the computer and bang out whatever this idea was that I just dreamt up in the middle of the night.
Oh, wow. Now, if you could write any story right now, something that you always wanted to write, what would it be?
Boy, I don't think anybody's ever asked me that question before, and I honestly don't know. I mean, I have a couple ideas. I have a couple ideas for a second book, but they're not really fully formed. So I don't really want to start talking about just an idea that's not really quite there yet. But I have had some thoughts about what I want to write next. I think some people have asked me, well, do you want to write another biography? And I think the answer to that is no, at least not right away, because it's so much. There's so much research. It took me about 5 years to research Dr. Hynek's life to write The Close Encounters Man. It's just a huge, huge investment of time and energy, and I'm glad I did it. It was the most it was the funnest and most rewarding writing experience I've ever been involved in. But it's also so much work and just takes up so much of your life. I just don't think I'd want to do a biography again, because it's not like you're writing fiction and you can just make up an idea. And if you make it sound convincing enough on the page, you can go with it. With a biography, you have to have facts, and you have to double-check those facts and triple-check those facts and make sure you're getting everything as absolutely as accurate as you can. And as I said, it's just a lot of work.
Have you thought about, converting that book you wrote into, like, a screenplay or anything of it?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a possibility,
Absolutely.
maybe in the future?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it is a possibility. And I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I will find. I got back into broadcasting, almost a year ago. I'm retired, and a friend of mine, who's now departed, Art Bell, one day about a year ago, called me up, and we started talking, if I was going to come up and go through that way on my motorcycle as I go to Reno and Las Vegas and all that stuff. And I said, I don't know, my health, I just don't know if I want to do it. And he goes, you need to get back into broadcasting on the internet. Hell with radio, go on the internet. I gave it some thought, and, with his guidance, I got back into it. But you know what I found? It's for years, you turn on TV or a cable channel, it was ghost hunters, ghost hunters, ghost hunters.
Oh, yeah.
And I've noticed a change, and actually about 8 months ago, the change has been more back to UFOs and aliens and implants and abductions and stuff like that. And it's gotten back heavy, more heavy than it has been in years.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's been pretty fun to watch, hasn't it? I mean, I think it's exciting. And, some of the shows, like Ancient Aliens, are kind of like, I don't know if that's really the best way we can be presenting our case to the public exactly. But I agree, though, there's been a huge, huge surge in development of UFO shows. And, some of them work really well, some of them don't work so well. But there is some good stuff out there. And hopefully there will be more good stuff in the future.
Well, it depends, too, on the government. It seems like it's weird things have been happening. We had the release of that film, which was a couple years old, but the two pilots, from the aircraft carrier, their encounter with a UFO, and all of a sudden that made it to the news. But then a month later after that actually hit the news, which I believe that was a couple years old, then we had the Secretary of the Air Force telling the graduating cadets that don't worry, the next war will not be a ground war. It'll be in outer space. And, somebody says that with that much authority, you start wondering what is going on. Why would he say that? Are we going to have a war with Russia or China in outer space rather than on our planet? Or is it going to be aliens? And then, like a couple months later, our president joked about creating a space force, which I already think there is one, But then he joked about it, and then a couple months later, then he announced that him and the vice president announced that they were going to try to create a space force. So I don't know, something is out there is causing this, but it seems like the people can't get enough about UFOs, Star Trek, or anything. It takes them off of this planet.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really an interesting time in our development, our cultural development, and our racial development, that we're starting to see more definite interest in life on other worlds. And I think a big part of that is NASA has put such a huge effort. Well, not just NASA, but other space agencies around the world too. The last few years have put in such huge efforts into detecting exoplanets in distant star systems, and the number of planets that we now know are out there. The numbers are just staggering. There are so many planets, so many more planets than we ever could have imagined. And it's so easy to start thinking, well, if there are that many planets, then there have to be at least some of them where some intelligent life has evolved. And if that's the case, then at least some of those intelligent life forms must be, following a similar path as us, and must be able to achieve interstellar travel at some point. So I think the fact that we talk about exoplanets now like it's just an everyday thing, which it is. When these far out concepts start to become normal, where we're hearing news stories about them every day and we're reading about them all the time, it really changes the way we look at things. I think the human race as a whole, we're much more open to the idea of other civilizations, other intelligences. We still don't know where exactly they may come from, or, as we've discussed earlier, what their motivations might be. But I think there's definitely been a change in mindset among the entire human race just about the acceptability of some of these ideas.
Well, it's just been too many years that the government has brainwashed us, that, telling us there's no such thing as UFOs. And you know what? I just can't believe out there that we're the only planet that has life that knows how to, make a car, or, make a TV or whatever. There's got to be other planets out there with life on it that, are maybe way more advanced than us. And that's the scary part. But, here just recently on my show, I had a geologist on my show talking about the Sphinx, the backside of it, the wear marks on it. For many years, they thought it was the sands. Well, they now come to the conclusion, no, that was from an ocean that wore the... Okay, well, that puts it before man. So, I
know, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if we're a breed of Martians, not jokingly, but maybe we're a breed from another alien race that, jump-started the planet. Maybe they had to. I don't know.
Well, it sure is fun to speculate, isn't it? I mean, I love this kind of talk where we can just speculate about what these things might mean, or, and where we may have come from, and how long we've been here, the questions of our own origin. I agree with you. The questions of our origin are just as interesting as questions about the origin of life elsewhere, I think.
Oh, yeah. The only thing, it still scares me, I think of the, Orson Welles, that radio play, done in the late 30s, of War of the Worlds. I just wonder if something like that in real life happened, what would civilization do? I mean, not even that. Let's say one day a UFO actually crashed somewhere where it was too many people witnessing it. How would the population take it?
Yeah, exactly. Would we go into complete shock? Would everything fall apart? I don't know. I have to say, though, I have to plug a book because I'm reading a really good science fiction novel right now.
Oh, go ahead.
It deals with a lot of the questions that you're asking right now. It's kind of interesting. The book is called The Three-Body Problem, and it's a Hugo Award winner. The author is Chinese, so it's a translation of the original, and it's actually a trilogy. I'm reading the first book of the trilogy, And it's the best science fiction novel I have read in a long, long time. It's just amazing. It's an amazing story. But as I said, it goes into all those issues you've just been talking about making contact with another civilization, about how it might happen and what the results might be. And it's just I can't recommend this book highly enough. If you love science fiction, give this book a try, and I bet you'll love it. I've just been eating it up.
Well, was it hard to find, or could you get it on
No,
Amazon?
well, I was at an independent bookstore just a week or two ago, and a friend of mine at work where I teach had actually recommended the book to me a couple of months ago, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then I was in this bookstore, and I suddenly remembered, oh, I'm supposed to look for this science fiction book called The Three Body Problem. And sure enough, they had it at the store, so I bought it. And like I said, I've just been loving it. Really, really good book.
Oh, wow. Now, is that like a weekend read or longer type of read?
No, it's a longer read. It's a big book. And the thing is, it's not just that it's not just that it's a thick book. It's one of those science fiction books that has so many mind-blowing ideas in it that you kind of have to read it a little more slowly than you might read other books, just so you can absorb it all. This author has so many amazing ideas on every page of the book practically that you don't want to rush through it. You just want to savor it because there's so many cool images and so many cool ideas in this book.
So it sounds like it draws you right into the story.
It totally has with me. It definitely worked for me.
Now, we're getting down to the end of the show. What would you recommend to, new writers that want to write a sci-fi book or get into it? What is your recommendations?
Well, I teach writing actually at DePaul University. Not writing books. I teach screenwriting, but the lessons are the same and the advice is the same, and it's a really hard thing to do to start writing a script or a book, but it's even harder to finish. But it's the most powerful thing I can say to my students is, and these are students of they've signed up for a screenwriting course, so they know they're going to be writing something. They've already sort of made that commitment to themselves that they're going to write something. So we're already halfway there. It's not hard getting these students to start their writing project, but getting them to finish it can be a real struggle, because people get real frustrated with, it's like a lot of writers, they have a real clear idea of the beginning of their story and a real clear idea of the ending of their story, but they have no idea what goes in the middle. And that's the real challenge of writing a book or a script, is what goes in the middle. And that's, so getting people from, like I said, starting a book or a script is hard enough, but finishing it, working your way through that wilderness of the middle of the story and finally getting to the ending that and sometimes the ending of the story is the first thing you think of, to be honest. So if you can get to that ending, that's a huge accomplishment.
How many people, since you teach a class, how many people are getting into learning how to screenwrite,
Oh, you'd be amazed. You would be amazed. I've been teaching screenwriting at DePaul University in Chicago this is my third year now. And the classes, it's hard to say. Sometimes the classes are only 8 or 9 kids. If it gets much lower than 8 students, they'll probably cancel the class. If it gets down to like 6 students or something, they may cancel the class because that's pretty small. But then on the top end, I've had classes where I've had close to 20 students. And that's a challenge because you want to give everybody their fair share of time in class to read their work and to get people's feedback. So yeah, you get up into the high teens, getting close to 20 students. It gets to be a challenge, but it's also really fun because then you have a lot more ideas flying around in the classroom too.
What type of ideas nowadays are the young people coming up with for scripts? What type of things?
There is a lot of science fiction, horror, and fantasy. Those genres are really popular.
Well, sci-fi and horror really dropped out for quite a few years. It really has. And then all of a sudden, again,